Nothing drives the nation to anger more than yet another death of an innocent child. Tony Bartlett, the latest convicted for murdering his 4-week-old baby son, Atticus. Let's discuss this. Hello everybody, welcome back to Beyond Conviction. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe for more true crime content and other videos regarding convictions and the UK criminal justice system. So yet another case of a baby being murdered at the hands of its supposed parent. Tony Bartlett murdered his 4-week-old son after a night of drinking and has been jailed for life with a minimum term of 18 years. So Tony Bartlett is from a place called Avon and Somerset, and on the 16th of July 2022, he shook baby Atticus to death in a sudden fit of anger. The sentencing judge had some choice words to say about this piece of shit. Mr. Justice John Kavanagh told Bartlett he was very drunk when he carried out the fatal attack on baby Atticus, becoming frustrated when the baby would not feed. The judge said, "I have no doubt that this terrible tragedy would not have happened if you were not so heavily intoxicated, and his inability to feed as well as you thought you should have done enraged you. You had a sudden fit of anger. You stopped, your anger evaporated, and then you dozed off." So I have a really big problem with this comment. Not because what the judge said isn't correct, it most likely will be, is that this person was able to inflict such damage to an innocent, fragile little baby and then go back to sleep. That's insane. That just shows a total disregard for anyone else but himself, and that shows almost sociopathic tendencies. You're able to go back to sleep after committing such a atrocious offence. It's beggars belief, absolutely beggars belief. However, Nigel Power KC, who is representing Tony Bartlett, said previously he had been a good and caring parent to his son. This is not a case where there is intention to kill or premeditation. Well, in my view, that really doesn't matter at all. If you're quick to anger, you shouldn't be in the presence or have custody of a child. I just don't understand. I know that regardless of what crimes people commit, everybody has a right to defence. Everybody has a right to seek legal counsel to represent them. There shouldn't be no excuses can be given if a baby has died, unless it can be proven that it's accidental. Even then, they shouldn't have no defence statements read on their behalf. They've done that. They've done that despicable crime. That's it. Put them down for it. No need. Don't try. You should only defend people again, like who've committed such offences, against corrupt hearings, against wrongful evidence. So the legal administrative side of things. You shouldn't be trying to justify their character, and certainly not trying to justify their offence. So I think the law does need reformed on this side of things. If you've been found guilty of an offence against a child, I don't think you should be able to try and mitigate it at all. A child has died regardless if you were drunk, regardless if you had some form of mental ailment, depending on what it is, regardless if you're tired. It doesn't matter. That's my opinion. It just does not matter. If a child has died because of you, that is it. Shit bust, whole life in jail. That is it. That is 100% where I stand. And if you could please put in the comments your thoughts. Should there be a go-to sentence for when a child has been harmed or killed? So I'll give you an example. If somebody is convicted of carrying a firearm in the UK, it's standard 5 years in prison. There's very little room for manoeuvre. Very rare judges steer like downwards from that. I think for the death of a child, it should be a minimum 30-year tariff, minimum, or whole life. There's no worse a crime in my opinion. Again, I say you guys put this in the comments. What do you think? Should there be some form of protest, some form of call to Parliament to say this needs reviewed? The cases against children are rising exponentially. Only a few weeks ago, we had that Jamie Varley, that disgraceful excuse for a human being, which I discussed in one of my previous videos. We've had this idiot. We've had another case near me, and that's just in the past few weeks. That's three children. That's probably not counting all of them. There's trials going on at the moment regarding deaths of children. It needs to stop. Obviously, if something needs to be done, firstly, social services need better resources to target children who are potentially at risk. Potentially, you ever heard of that saying? Prevention is better than cure. Why do social services always get involved either with parents that they don't need to get involved with, and they're just picking on them because they've had reports from sly neighbours, or there's a relationship breakdown and they only care about the tit for tat between couples, but they're disregarding all of the real problematic family setups that are causing deaths of children. It's always too late. When they make a comment, it's always too late. So they need more preventative measures. I've had people come to me and suggesting that when a baby is born, parents should be interviewed by psychiatrists and psychologists before the baby is discharged into their care, just to ensure that baby is 100% safe. Stuff like that, which I'm not too sure how plausible that would be. But at least it's an idea, something to build on. Something needs to be done. I don't have the answer currently. I know you guys will have some snippets of what could work, what may not work, and I think together in the comments and as a channel, we could probably suggest something that could at least be thought of as a starting point. Because this has to stop, and I'm developing. In the past few weeks, I've developed such a passion for the reformation of law regarding the deaths and harm of children. One incident is 5 too many. This needs to stop. We need more preventative actions given by NHS, social services, the police, and we need more sentences that act as deterrents. Think twice before you lose your rag. I think parents need to be assessed as just as standard. Once a baby is born, parents need to be assessed. And if a partner is coming in, a new partner's coming into the family, for example, they need to be assessed. You can't just move someone in willy-nilly off record. They need to be assessed. Is the child safe? Is the relationship volatile? Is the relationship stable? Does this person have historic, violent offences? Are they a risk to former partners? Are they a risk to themselves or to children? Stuff like that. It may seem very bureaucratic and almost an invasion of one's privacy, but wouldn't that be a sacrifice worth having to ensure that children are more protected than they are now? Because quite clearly, children are not. Children are getting absolutely shat upon by the UK, by their supposed parents. It's absolutely insane. And all social services and the government care about is making them listen to, in school, certain ideologies that the government are trying to push upon them. But when it comes to potential life and death, it's always too late. It's always too fucking late. It really is. And I mean, with my kids, I remember when my son will fall over, as kids do, get a tiny little graze on their knee. And me and his mum were getting pulled into the school, filling out accident reports and getting interviewed about it. But I get it. I get it. You know, the school want to ensure that the child is safe. So stuff like that, I get it. And I've never whinged about it. What I do get annoyed at is when they're focusing on good parents like me and my wife, there's kids slipping through the nets and getting, subdued to such terrible perils like this. It needs to stop. And I've seen a lot of chat on the internet in the past few weeks with Andy Burnham's step into office, and a lot of people are starting to get behind the death penalty. You know, I made a suggestion about it on my Jamie Varley video a while back. I've read your responses, and they were great, very informative, and somewhat it did sway my thinking a bit. I was 100% for the death penalty, but until I read some of your comments, I've actually been swayed to maybe 95, maybe towards 90. But something has to be done. What is the most scariest thing? I would say death is probably the most scariest thing one can be faced with. It's a deterrent. You see, in Saudi Arabia, certain crimes warrant lashes, they warrant, I think theft warrants getting your hand removed, and quite a few crimes warrant the death penalty. And their crime rates are so low, especially in Dubai and in the United Arab Emirates. Their crime rates are so low compared to Europe. And the only thing I can see that differentiates them sort of nations from us is the fact that they have much more powerful punishments than we do. This idiot got 18-year minimum. Let's say if he does a couple after that, 20 years. For a baby who's not even made it into his second month of life, that's fucking nothing. That's absolutely nothing. Yes, he'll be suffering, he'll be on the numbers, he'll be on VP wings, he'll be in probably a jail like Wakefield, where he'll be looking over his shoulder and he'll be surrounded with the absolute dregs of society, and he won't be able to have a cushy prison sentence no matter where he goes. But still, this is not a good transaction in my view. That little baby's life for not even 2 decades, where we're paying for him to be looked after, fed. Yes, he will be in a very volatile environment, but still, he'll more than likely survive it. It's something. Something needs to change. 18 years is nothing. 18 years is bugger all. People get more for armed robbery. If you've heard of the story about Lee Murray, the former UFC fighter who got done for that Securitas cash factory robbery in Kent in 2004, he got 25 years in prison, over in Morocco, might I add, for that. And that's only a bit different from what this guy got. He only robbed a few quid, and this guy got effectively less if he gets his parole, less for killing an innocent baby. The sentencing needs rejigged, it really does. Sentencing guidelines really do need to change. And the more videos I put, because I guarantee there's going to be a few more. There's going to be a few more cases that I'm going to see in the next few weeks. And I will do a video on them because I want to push this. Not saying we need to bring back the death penalty, but the law, specifically the sentencing guidelines, need to change for offences like this. End of story. Right, people. Your thoughts. That's what I value most. Get them in the comments. I will read them all. I want to know what you think. Should we be kicking up a bigger fuss than we are in the country right now to get the laws and sentencing guidelines changed for offences against children? My answer is it needs to stop. Forget about this crap about cost of living for a minute, forget about LGBTQRSTUV, forget about them sort of things. They may be important, yes, but I think the protection of children, which is the nation's most valuable resource, your future resources all come from the children we need to protect. Something needs to change. Those who cause the harm or the death of a child need to be put away for life. Minimum 30 years, probably higher, whole life order. Or I'm open to the death penalty. If you guys are, try and persuade me if it's not the way to go. You did sway my thoughts in the last video I done. Get all of your thoughts and ideas in the comments. What should we do as a nation, as a people, to ensure that we at least partly reduce the deaths of children in this country at the hands of idiotic prick parents like this one we've just discussed today? Let me know. Thank you very much. Another video on yet another disgusting child-killing prick. I'm sorry, but I think the best way to have an effect, rather than just little old me talking about it to my close friends and to people I knock about with, I want to push this out to the wider community, to across the UK, across the world if needs be. I want everyone who watches this video on my side to push a change in law to ensure that children are protected, i.e. psychiatric assessments of all parents in hospitals before their child is discharged into their care, just to ensure that that child is going to a safe home. Yes, you can't always pinpoint what's going to happen in the future, but at least no stone was left unturned. And changes in the sentencing guidelines for offences against children. Let me know your thoughts. What should we do? Please put it in the comments. Thank you for listening. I value your opinions, your very educated opinions, your very well thought out opinions. I really do value them. I've learnt so much in the few weeks I've been putting videos up like this. I've learnt so much from the comments that you guys have been putting, and it is really great to see. So thank you for listening, and peace and love.